Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Yitzhak Kesselman, and I will talk with you today about how you bring the data, the semantics, the ontology behind the data to bring it to power your applications in the era of AI. And before we start, let's see a quick video that demonstrates how the world today is changing with data and AI. And let's see it in action.
Today's world moves faster than most organizations can react. Problems and opportunities appear in real time. Signals pour in from every direction, changing second by second. The volume easily becomes overwhelming. To stay ahead, your business needs to see itself not as fragmented data, but as a unified living system. One system that shows what's connected, what's changing, and what every action will affect. A system that lets your teams and AI think in the language of your business, from the smallest detail to the big picture. Instantly, intuitively, and connected. Together, people and AI agents operate as one team, not only spotting issues and opportunities, but also understanding the full context and what to do. AI agents continuously monitor and act when it makes sense. They also recommend options and coordinate in real time with their teammates. Decisions become actions. Actions ripple across the organization, changing outcomes in the moment. This is the modern business, people and AI operating as one system in real time, turning unified data into unified intelligence. This is Microsoft Fabric.
As I've seen in the video, there's a difference between lagging and leading. That's the present reality today of our businesses, and then we see it across the board. In this reality, our customers really want to move from reactive and manual, instead of looking in reports or dashboards that are stale, hour or days old, really to the proactive and autonomous ability to have software and agents that help them proactively and autonomously find insights behind the data and to be able to help them to operate their business. Going back to the video of stadium operations, the goal here is really to collect all those signals across the different entities and ability to collect the signals with the actions and the essence behind it. And we're speaking about running business operations. We're speaking here about thousands of signals that need to be connected across the business, understand what it means to the all, and find really the signals that really matter. And the goal here really is to drive the changes of the outcome for my business. We want to make sure that both humans and agents can work together to drive the business operations. If we're looking about operational foundation, what it means from architectural perspective, the goal here is to have 3 layers infrastructure. The first is to have a unified data estate where you can bring all your data together across cloud and on-prem, batch and streaming into one place, so you can reason and understand how your business operates across the whole majority of the business. And then you want to have engines that can reason and understand all this data together. And last but not least is the intelligence layer, how you can find the reasoning and the meaning behind all this data to power both human and agents' decisions. Our goal really to connect all the data together, streaming, batch, structured, semi-structured, unstructured together. And that's the goal here, is really to unify that. And that's where Fabric came into place. We're hearing from a lot of chief information officer, hey, I want to be the chief information officer and not the chief integration officer. And that's what Fabric came to solve. Really a unified data platform for the era of AI, having the ability to bring all this data in and to be reflected in OneLake. And on top of that, different engines can work seamlessly on top of all this data, from data factory to analytics to Power BI and real-time intelligence. And our goal here, when speaking about operational foundation, how we want to drive operations, we need to think about those 3 layers. OneLake, where it represents all the data across your organization, real-time intelligence that allows you to reason about the data, take actions and understand it, and IQ, where you can create those semantic understanding behind your analytical data and ontologies to drive your business operations. And those are the critical components to really make sure that both humans and agents can work together. And when we're speaking our goal of building agents, our goal is to make sure that we are building agents that are as trusted and as productive as our best employees. If we want to empower agents, they need to make sure they have the same context and the same understanding as we have. So if you look, what access do I have? What understanding do I have? I have access to my Outlook, to my teams, to my documents in the company, but also different operational system where I can see customers, production environments, and system. And the same context is needed for agents to be able to act, reason, and take decisions the same way that I can do. And this is the intelligence layer to power both humans and agents' ability to understand all the organizational data together with the document, the curated knowledge, but also the state of the business, what actions can I take. And that's the Microsoft IQ layer from Microsoft, ability to unify all your enterprise data and understanding into one layer. WorkIQ allows you to help to understand how your employees work. FounderIQ helps you to understand your institutional knowledge, all the documents, the procedures. And FabricIQ allows you to help to understand the state of the business, but also to help you to operate it. So going back to the scenario of the stadium operations, we need to make sure that we collect and understand all this data across all the business. And today we'll dive into FabricIQ and go deeper into it to understand how you can build it and how you can power your business operations. So let's dive into more FabricIQ and what it means for you if you're building software. What are the layers that are important for you? So it consists of 3 layers. The first one is the unified data. I was telling before, the ability to connect all your structured, semi-structured, unstructured data into one place. On top of it, you have the business intelligence, ability to use the semantic models that represent your analytical understanding of your business. And the last layer is operational intelligence, how you're taking all this together, all the data across your organization, the analytical understanding, but then you power it also with the reasoning and the streams of data and the events that happen in your business, but also ability to act on this data. And the last is ontologies in IQ that really represents the ability to reason and create this virtual brain of your business operations. And that's what really powers both people and agents to work together and really operate your business. So let's dive into the first layer. When speaking about OneLake, OneLake is a critical part of Microsoft Fabric, allows you to bring all this data in across different sources from on-prem and cloud into one place across Microsoft and non-Microsoft ecosystem across different sources. And this data is brought in by means of a physical copy or virtual as shortcut where you can just point to the data. But once you brought this data in, you can access all this data across Microsoft systems. So you can connect all this data to Excel or other sources. But not only that, you can access all this data through other SaaS providers that can access all this data in OneLake. And behind that is the ability that OneLake is using open format sources. It's using Delta Parquet, where you can access all this data. And the engines within Fabric are optimized to really work seamlessly and very performant on top of this data. And the important part here is around governance and security. OneLake provides a layer where you can have one security across all your data sources. So one, you mirror or shortcut your data into OneLake across your on-prem cloud or other data platforms. Now all this data is being secure and governed into one layer. And that's an important part when speaking about data AI, making sure that you have the right governance and security to work with all this data. And we have an ability in more than 170 different connectors that allows you to bring all this data across different sources. And that's a key part, making sure that we enable this ability to have a full unified view of your data across your business. The second layer is around BI and semantic models. So today, there are more than 20 million semantic models in your organizations where it represents how your analytical understanding for business. Those are used to really run your day-to-day understanding of the analytical side of the business. And that allows you to really have a curated repository for business understanding, enable and decisions around analytical stuff. And there are more than 35 million users that use regularly monthly those semantic models across the ecosystem. And last, operational intelligence. And with that, we'll dive into 2 aspects. One is real-time intelligence and the other one is ontologies and IQ. And with that, I will hand over to Tessa to tell you more about that.
Thank you, Yitzhak. So I'm going to talk a little bit about real-time intelligence in Fabric, which really allows you to get access to all of your streaming and event data. And we start with all the different connectors that we support. And you can see today that we support a wide range of connector, both from Microsoft and cross-cloud, and we're adding more and more every week. But when we look at the full kind of capabilities of real-time intelligence, we have these wide range of tools in the toolbox that start from those connectors and that data to make it very easy for you to access, but also allows you to truly build an end-to-end solution. We have capabilities directly in our streaming area. We have a curated engine for analysis, petabytes of data, being able to query it in seconds. We have the ability to model and contextualize and understand the data, and then, of course, visualize it in truly operational formats so you can see the data as it's coming in. And last but not least, the ability to act and understand the data within the rest of the system as well. And each of these pillars have a detailed set of capabilities to really ensure whatever you need for your organization is possible. And once again, we're improving each of these items every week as we hear feedback from customers like you. And the really important thing about real-time intelligence is that it really isn't limited to just time. Of course, we do focus on the temporal aspect. It's so important to understand the sequence of events and how things change over time, but you also need to understand where it happened and also what is related and what could be impacted by these happenings to really ensure that you have that holistic understanding of operations. So let's jump right in and see a demo. Okay, we're going to start in the real-time hub, which is that central location for all of your streaming and event data. And if you don't already have access to the data, it's not already in the system, you can use that wide range of connectors I mentioned to really easily bring in the data. We're going to start building on the stadium scenario by leveraging the new MQTT connector and being able to bring in our turnstile event. So very easy to connect and actually bring that data directly into my system. You can see now that I'm in the event stream, I can see the MQTT source, and I can also bring in other data sources, whether it's custom events or other streaming sources into that same stream. And I can load them into a variety of destinations, whether it's Event House or notebooks. I'm actually going to open the notebook and see a little bit more about what I'm doing here. So I'm actually bringing in those events into the notebook to do some additional processing to really help me understand where I might have, increase in a volume coming into the stadium, something I might want to, monitor and take an action on. But more than doing the analysis, I'm actually going to use our new business event capability. So directly from this notebook, I'm going to actually emit a business event when that congestion is detected. And so going back into the real-time hub, you can see the new business events capability. I see that turnstile congested event, and right from this view, I can actually set an alert so that the team can be notified when that condition comes in. So very powerful, not only providing access to all of my organizational data, but I can also have curated business events that can go to the rest of the system. So looking at this task flow, I can see all of the different data kind of coming into my system. I can see it landing directly in Event House, and I can go all the way into visualizing it directly in our real-time dashboards. So let's see that real-time dashboard, and I can see how the view of our stadium operations is coming in, and the team can monitor it in real time. So on my real-time dashboard, I can see all this different information. I can see the data streaming in from that wide range of sources. I can see things from other areas, for example, our security health. And going specifically into this visual, I'm seeing duplicate ticket scans. And right from that visual, I can actually leverage Copilot to help me understand it a bit more. So I'm going to ask Copilot to help me visualize a breakdown by ticket type for each of these entrances. And so you can see here, it actually broke down the view, which is very helpful because I can see in the VIP entrance, I actually have premium and VIP coming in, and that has the highest duplicate ticket scans. It's very concerning. And make this really easy for my organization to understand it from the dashboard. I can refine the colorings directly of the chart. So now anybody who looks at this view can get that information. We can also integrate the rich geospatial capabilities directly with all of this real-time and operational data. And so if I think about the stadium, I think about all of the traffic, the data, the people flowing in, I can see the different hotspots and understand which of the entry points might have congestion, and also what things like concessions and the other pieces around the stadium are going to be impacted as that data comes in. And so once again, from my operational dashboard, I can directly set an alert. And what this is going to do is as the average wait time is increasing, I actually want to be tracking it and not just setting an alert notification for the team. I actually want to take an action. And so here you can see we have a wide range of actions and are adding more and more for Activator every week. In this case, I'm actually going to run a notebook that's going to help with the load balancing across our different areas. says. And you can see I can provide specific parameters that are coming in from the query as it's being run and detected, and really helping to improve my operations in a manual way still. You'll see more on our autonomous way in a bit, but really helping the team go directly from event, condition, all the way into action as well. That was a quick demo to really show you the end-to-end capabilities. And although we focused on the stadium operations today, there's a wide range of customers in all different industries and verticals, whether it's sports, energy, airports, airlines, manufacturing, retail, you name it. We have customers that are improving their operations, their business, leveraging real-time intelligence. And one of the things we hear from these customers directly is that there really is no AI without RTI. Now, what does that mean? It means that any AI solution, especially an agentic solution, needs the highest volume granularity data it can get. It needs it to be fresh. It needs it to be accurate. And all of that is truly possible with real-time intelligence. And even though some of the experiences I showed are very user-friendly, it really is built on this planet-scale infrastructure for real-time data. And I love showing this slide. I joke every time we show it, it gets a little bit more out of date. But we're talking about over 600 trillion messages per month, 14.3 exabytes of events and logs per month, 7.8 billion real-time queries per day, and 5 nines reliability across the messaging. So really amazing scale for running these organizations and these businesses. And one of the things that people can be concerned about when we talk about data at that scale, at that speed, is cost. But really, real-time intelligence is very competitive when it comes to scale, performance, and cost. You don't have to give any of them up. So in a public benchmark that you can see from the slide, comparing to Confluent and Snowflake, you can see actually real-time intelligence was 12 times faster and 37% more cost-effective for the different scenarios. So definitely go take a look at the benchmark to learn more. So as I mentioned, Fabric and real-time intelligence are updating every single week. So I'm just going to show you some quick updates that we've done, especially leading up to build. So we have the GA of our SQL operator directly in EventStream, allowing you to express custom business logic using SQL. Very, very powerful. Support for Spark structured streaming with EventStream. So that ability to actually stream process using Python and a rich connection between EventStream and the Spark notebooks. We have new capabilities for building the event-driven applications with Deltaflow, making it very, very easy to transform those Debezium feeds directly into analytics-ready events without you having to customize it directly in the event stream. We have the business events directly in the real-time hub. As you saw in the demo, the ability to publish these business events for anyone within Fabric to subscribe to, whether it's for analytics or action purposes. We have the Copilot capabilities directly in real-time intelligence. So not just being able to visualize, really helping you understand and explore your data directly in context. We have a whole set of MCP and skills for real-time intelligence, making it very easy to bring that real-time directly to your agents. So if you haven't tried this out, go try it out today as well. And last but not least, we have our geospatial visualization in the map item directly within Fabric. It's generally available and ready for all of your geospatial needs, both real-time and can be used alongside all of the other pieces across Fabric. So that was a quick whirlwind tour of all of the different capabilities of real-time intelligence, and I'll hand it back to Yitzhak to talk about IQ.
Thank you, Tessa. And let's dive more into Fabric IQ and what it means for us. So we're discussing how Fabric helps you to unify your data, and we want to take it to the next level, how we can use Fabric to really unify your business operations. And going back to the scenario that we discussed at the beginning about stadium operations, and we want to look deeper into that to understand how you can use Fabric to drive the business operations. And we need to understand how you would do so. So looking at the scenario specifically, we want to really understand what are the entities involved. If you look, we have the stadium, the gates, the food stands, the attendees. All those entities are rich entities. Of course, they have properties and measures, but they are much richer than that. They have geospatial information, like the location of the gate. They have time series data, how many people going through the gate. But you can also start to apply actions, for example, assigning crew or schedule a repair. And all these entities are interconnected by a business meaning, not just through a data key relationship, but a relationship that represents a business meaning for the business. And because of that, we can start applying rules and policies to really for example, drive crowd management or food safety for our business. And the ultimate goal here is really to drive the objective for the business. For example, satisfaction or profitability. And that's how the business thinks about their operations. They think in concepts of entities, properties, what we want to achieve, and what actions we can do to really achieve that. But the reality today that we are working with tables and schemas. If you have questions, we are creating analytical reports to really understand the data behind and the meaning behind of it. If we have more questions, we'll create another report. And those analytical systems are separate from our operational system. An action that has been taken on the operational side is not immediately reflected on the analytical side, and they're working not in tandem. So if you want to understand something in your business, take an action and see the feedback, they're not connected to each other and it takes time. If you zoom out and look at the bigger organization, we have multiple teams working on multiple different data states, running different operational systems, and that creates a complex fragmented scenario. So going back to the examples of the stadium operations, if you will ask a simple question, for example, what an active gate means to different teams, it will give you different answers. All those answers are correct in the context of the team, but they're not correct and they could be confusing in the context of the broader organization. And that's what we are seeing. When companies try to run their business across all their data, they get a scenario which is very fragmented. They're reactive and they're slow to act. And our goal here is to connect the data to the meaning and drive actions on top of it. So our goal here is really to collect all this data coming from applications, from IoT devices, from the telemetry, user behavior, etc., and really empower our business operations, enable our humans and agents work together in tandem. If you look at the cycle of data, of collecting all this data, observing, analyzing, and deciding, and ultimately acting on top of all this data, we want to make sure that we're doing it, that we empower both our humans and agents to work in together. And that's the cycle that all developers are familiar with. But the goal here is really to provide this understanding of the context. And in this case, we need to have the semantic understanding what all those signals and actions can mean. And in this case, we want to make sure that this semantic understanding is the semantic understanding that powers our business. And the goal here is really to use this semantic understanding for our business and create this ontology that represents the virtual brain of the business. This represents all our entities, how they're interconnected to each other, what are policies, what rules and actions we can apply, and use this really to power our business. And this ontology is super critical to collect all their data, all the operational system, ability to drive actions both for our humans and agents. And let's see this video that represents the end-to-end scenario.
Data is the fuel that powers AI, but data alone is not enough. AI needs an understanding of what the data means, how things relate, and which actions turn insight into impact. Introducing Microsoft Fabric IQ, the semantic foundation that unites data, business meaning, and action into a single unified view of your organization. Model your business using visual, no-code tools, so the people who know your company can adapt it as fast as it evolves. Create entities over all your data in OneLake, not only your analytical data and Power BI semantic models, but also your operational, geospatial, and real-time data. Navigate your business the way it actually runs, not by tables and schemas, but by organizational concepts. And ultimately, elevate your teams and your AI to ask questions, reason, and act in the language of your business. Powered by this live, unified view of your organization. Trigger actions in real time using rules and empower AI operations agents to run your business, because now they understand its live context. Connect Fabric IQ seamlessly with Foundry IQ, uniting your live business context with the knowledge captured in your documents and communications. This combination from Microsoft gives developer-built agents in Foundry unmatched context, so they can make decisions you trust and continuously optimize your operations for superior outcomes. From unified data to unified intelligence, this is IQ in Microsoft Fabric.
So you saw the capabilities of ontologies in Fabric IQ that allows you really to create this virtual brain for your business to drive your operations, connecting all the data to the meaning and creating this virtual brain that has the ability to drive actions. And with that, I want to show more in depth how the product works, and I will call Tessa to show us more in depth. To you, Tessa.
Okay, thank you, Yitzhak. Now let's jump in and see how the product works. So we'll start with Ontology. This is that brain of your business, as Yitzhak mentioned, and I'll show you a little bit about how you both build it and use it in just a minute. We also have actions and rules directly in the ontology item. So taking that same power I showed earlier about activator, but actually bringing it across the entire entity and the relationships, not just the individual data pieces. And last but not least, we'll talk more about the graph analytics directly in Fabric IQ. This is native graph capabilities within Fabric, built on top of all of your data that's in OneLake. So you don't need to have additional ETL in order to take advantage of things like this relationship analysis and more that you can do with graph. So let's start with creating the ontologies. Now, this is a big part, of course, of the process, but we want to make it as easy as possible and also not just a one-time thing. So we're going to build off of the different capabilities and knowledge and information that you already have within your organization and within Fabric. So I'm going to start, as I do with anything in Fabric, by creating an item. You're going to start by creating a new ontology item and choosing which workspace it's going to live in. That's also going to help with permissions and control. And so you can see here, I can start, by importing, or I can start directly with Copilot. And so with Copilot, I am going to type in natural language, and I want to start by creating this ontology. And it's going to suggest that I leverage the information that I have in my semantic models. So you can see here, I'm going to choose a couple different semantic models that have the right information. It has some of those entities and relationships for my stadium and security data. And then now I'm going to give it a bit more information about what I'm trying to accomplish. So you can see here in natural language, I provide, let's create a game day stadium operations ontology. I'm going to specify some of the specific concepts I want to have modeled. And all of this is going to allow me to even specify things like, industry standards or other things from across, the organization and the web that it might want to pull in and bring in into my ontology. So now Copilot is doing the different reasoning. It's giving me the different information. And just like that, it's found different entity types, the properties, data bindings, the relationships, and it's put all this together for me directly in my ontology. So I'm going to approve them all and go from, the suggestions that we have from Copilot directly into my actual ontology that's being created. You can see that I have all the different entities. You can see the data that's bound to each of these properties and the other information that's available. And really easily from here, I can keep building on top of it. I can add additional entity types and relationships. I can go directly into one of the entity types. In this case, it's event or entrance. I can see how it's related to these other entities, and I can even add more data. So I go and I chose my event host data. So I want to bring in some of that real-time and streaming data that you saw before. I'm going to bind the actual precise timestamp directly to these time series properties. You can see that it's suggesting properties to bring in, and I can also add ones explicitly. And now that data is brought directly alongside the existing entity and the existing data that came from my semantic model in really just a few clicks. So as I mentioned, we can also build off further and add in things like the rules and the actions directly from the entity type. And again, this is very powerful because it's not just about the single data source. It's really about everything that makes up that entity. I can even connect things like my reports. So I really have a unified view of all of these important concepts and components of my different business entities to make it very easy for my organization to leverage it and use it more. So speaking of using it more, let's actually see what it looks like to leverage the ontology. So I'm back in the ontology view. This is where I was adding the entity types, the relationships, the different data, but I could actually go into the entity type overview itself and get more information about what's going on with this particular business entity right now. So I'm still on the entrance entity, and I can see here the actual overview. I can see things like the data as it's streaming in about the queue length or the wait time in minutes. Of course, I have the relationship graphs that we'll talk to in a little bit more. A little bit in a minute, but you can see actually the context of the data that helps me understand what's going on with the entrance. You can see at the top there, I have 8 different instances of these entrances as well, and I can see how the different instances, kind of the data is distributed over these different areas. And I can select a particular instance, and that's going to give me a double click right into that view. So in this case, I chose the north entrance. You can see the different properties, like where it is. And again, you can see all the different data views that are narrowed in specifically to this item. So very helpful to see this overview of the entity. But we'll take it even further and show you how the graph capabilities in IQ also really powers this kind of relationship and causal analysis. We're very excited to announce that graph is actually generally available, and you can see how it takes the power of what you have in your OneLake data and your ontology. It really helps you understand all of this different information together. So let's see it in action. So building on the view we saw before, that north gate entrance looked like we needed to understand a little bit more what's going on. And so I can go directly from my ontology view, or I can go right into the graph item itself. And here I'm using our visual no-code query builder to actually build out a rich GQL query without ever having to understand or write code. So you can see I chose entrance, and it helped me build out the other related nodes, the course segment, the seating section, and I could even filter down to a particular view. And just like that, I have very fast graph results coming in. I can see these different entrances. I can see the different areas that it's related to. And so, for example, I can use seating section 204 as an example to really understand a bit more about the implications of something happening at one of these entrances and what it could do to something like section 204. So see here, I've actually specified now a GQL query. I'm trying to understand the different related areas around 204 and the different entrances that are near it. And I switched over to the query results in a list view instead of in that diagram view to get a better understanding of it. Now I'm going to take a more interesting and more rich query that's going to help me actually go from the different area into the different gates that are related and actually understand which of the concession stands are involved. And so, for example, if we have a surge in one of the areas or from one of the different gates, we really want to understand which of these concessions need to be on standby and make sure that they have, enough staff and actually enough supplies. So I'm going to take one further hop and actually go all the way into the warehouse so I can understand which warehouses are helping to power which concession stands that are by the entrances. And you see this multi-hop analysis to really understand the relationships across my entire system is so powerful. And it's all possible with the graph analytics capability directly built into the ontology. And that's not it. We also have planning in Fabric IQ. We announced this one at FabCon, and this is where you can see over that same trusted data, you can actually plan out and understand and run what-if scenarios, making it really powerful to enable the business and the finance teams. Okay, that was a quick overview of some of the different capabilities in Fabric IQ, and I'll hand it back to you, Yitzhak.
So I'm super excited here to have Dr. Werner from Siemens Healthineers to tell us about how they use the product, how it changed their developers. So Dr. Werner, can you tell us a bit about yourself and the company?
Yes, so first of all, thanks for having me here. It's really a pleasure. Let me talk about Siemens Healthineers first. Siemens Healthineers is a company which sells medical products like CTs, MRIs, angiography systems, ultrasound systems, and so on. These systems are sold to the customer, and we are getting the data from that. My job is to analyze the data and develop cloud solutions to really make sure that we are doing a good customer services job.
Thank you. That sounds like super mission critical and super important for your users that are using your data and your analytics. So that's a bit about kind of the evolution, what you're using before, what you moved to use now, and how it changed kind of your day-to-day, the day-to-day of your developers and also the end customers at the end.
So let's say in a short summary, I would say we are coming from plain old batch file processing to more proactive service to something like real-time streaming. But let's start in the beginning. So in the last 20 to 25 years, we have been transferring files from the systems. That's log files or any kind of log file that we need for customer services for analyzing data. The three main use cases are predictive service, which means we are trying to forecast a failure which is upcoming, which is really hard if you just get a file once per day. We are doing proactive services, so there is already something happened on the system which is not good. We know it. The customer did not know it, or at least he did not realize that so far. So we're trying to at least be prepared if the customer calls. And the third one is reactive service, which is really mission critical in our case, because we are, and I'm focusing on angiography. That means we have a patient lying on the table, and the doctor needs to, it just tells us, the system is not working. What should I do? Should I now relocate the patient? I am in the middle of a treatment. Should I relocate the patient, or what should I do? And then you need to have the data at once, immediately, and it needs to be analyzed immediately. And here is a technology necessary that helps us.
And tell us a bit about like what you were using in the past and what we're using now, and how they change kind of experience for your developers.
In the past, we have been using, let's say, other products, other databases, and our data scientists were really stuck in building intermediate tables and doing operations all the way. We've been introducing Microsoft technology, that is the native stack like EventGrid, Event Hub, and also Azure Data Explorer. That changed dramatically the way we've been working. Our data scientists now have time to really go for patterns that are telling us what is actually wrong with the system, and at the end, which are helping our customers and which are helping the patient to make sure that the system is running smoothly.
So thank you, Dr. Werner. So you moved from a kind of something that was a bit more batch, something a bit more streaming into the cloud using Azure PaaS services, but you also moved now to Fabric real-time intelligence. So tell us a bit more how it changed kind of the experience for your developers and what was the impact on your end customers.
I think for developers, it's interesting in two ways. So Fabric is like a natural successor of which we have been, the technology we have been using before, but it has two impact on two aspects. The first one is development. So development speed increases really much because all the things that you need to, nitty-gritty details, that it will be taken over and automated. That's number one. Second one is operations. We don't have the time to operate like VMs, clusters, servers, what have you. So that has been taken over. It's all automated. So we have really decreased in operational costs at the end.
No, so that's exciting to hear. That's exactly the goal, to make sure that developers focus on the specific IP, their knowledge, and they're not focusing on the plumbing or kind of maintaining the system. So happy to hear that it worked for you and your customers. So what was kind of the impact on your business, if you can share, on your customers that now using Siemens Healthineers?
I think we are coming now into this mode where streaming is really like a commodity. So our systems need to be able to stream data in real time. So, and this is a big increase that we can go with Fabric, because it helps really to make sure that reactive service hits the point exactly where we have a problem in the system. We can order spare parts if required and prevent downtimes for the customer. So I think this will increase also from a customer side the benefit.
No, thank you so much, Dr. Werner. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome.
So that was super exciting to hear Dr. Werner share about how the product impacts their customers, but more how their developers becoming more productive and really able to focus on their IP and their specific skills and not on the plumbing. So with that, let's focus on the next thing, what we want to do. In this case, we want to discuss how really Fabric can enable both people and agents to work with all this data that we created. And today, everyone talks about AI, but the question how we can apply AI to really generate real value in this case. And when speaking about AI, there are two aspects here. One is the machine learning, and the other one is LLMs, large language models. And the goal here is really to use where AI excels, really finding the needle in the haystack and ability to reason about it, really to understand how we can use those signals to help drive our operations for our business. And that's where Fabric creates a difference. Today, as I mentioned before, we are working on tables and schemas on the raw data without the context of the business. And the goal here is really to power the agents to be grounded on the real business context, the real ability, what the business represents, all the actions, all the rules, all the policies that really represent the virtual brain of the business. And if you look kind of at the spectrum of agents from no code to pro code, where developers build their own custom agents, as you are, you want to make sure that those agents that you build are grounded on the ontology in Fabric IQ and powered by real-time intelligence. And if we dive deep into kind of what Microsoft has allowed us to do, so all the integration from Microsoft Foundry, Microsoft Copilot Studio, and out-of-the-box agent from Microsoft Fabric are all grounded and integrated on the ontologies in Fabric IQ. So with that, I would like to invite Tessa to show you more in depth how you can use AI with ontologies.
Thank you. Okay, yes, let's go right in to show a demo about agents, specifically the operations agent capabilities, which, as I mentioned before, is actually generally available. So let's see how it works. So going right in, we're actually going to start. If you remember before from the demos, we showed how you can, start to automate based off of the custom data as it's streaming in, or maybe as you emit those business events. But what I'm going to do here is actually start by creating an anomaly detector. And what this is going to do is leverage the same data that I have in EventHouse, but it's going to bring in the power of data science. It's going to analyze and understand the data and the different patterns that are existing in my data, and it's going to recommend the best model to detect anomalies on my data. And so I'm not a data scientist, but you can see here it leverages, user-friendly terminology, things like fast outlier scanner, core pattern finder, and because I can see my data right alongside this information, I can better understand what this model is going to do and if it matches the anomalies that I understand within my business data. So very powerful. In just a few clicks, I can actually create and publish this anomaly detector. And what it's going to do is, as the data is streaming in, as new data comes in, it's going to run that same analysis and actually emit an anomaly detector event when something meets those conditions. And so very powerful. Again, you saw it before when I did this manually. Now we're fully automating it by also leveraging AI to actually detect the anomalies themselves instead of me having to write, custom code in order to understand them. I can even, when I subscribe to the anomaly detector, I can filter to specific values. And just like that, once the alert's created, it can run alongside my team and alert and then notify the team. But we're going to take it even further, actually, with the operations agent. And what this is actually going to do is it's going to be able to monitor and understand all of this different data, the anomaly detector events, my EventHouse data, my ontology. It's going to do all of this in real time and actually be able to monitor and understand, and then most importantly, act alongside my business. So I'm going to start by onboarding the agent as I would any team member and give it the goals. In this case, it's going to help ensure that our stock levels for the concession stands are adequate. I can provide the more detailed instructions as I would for any agent, but the real power comes in when I connect it directly to that same ontology. So all of the business context, the entities, the relationships, the actions that are already in the ontology are automatically available to this agent. I can add custom actions as well. And just like that, I've provided all this information on the left-hand side, the goals, the instructions, the knowledge from the ontology, and the custom actions that we want for this particular case. And just like that, I can generate the playbook. Now, when I select generate the playbook, what you're going to see on the right-hand side is essentially the agent telling back to us what it understood about all of this information. So you can see here, it found the different entities that are relevant for the goals that we provided. It sees the properties that are interesting and the rules that it's not just going to monitor for, but actually take actions on when the conditions are met. So now that the operations agent is up and running, it's alongside the rest of our team, actually directly in our team's channel. And you can see right that it already found a particular condition that it's alerting on. So in this case, it can see a specific concession has low stock. It's recommending an action to reorder, but I can also take the option to investigate further. And so in this case, the agent is going to go that deeper level, do some root cause analysis to really understand what led to this condition, to really ensure that the action it's suggesting is the best one. In this case, it's still the right action to reorder the stock. It's going to help ask me to confirm the different parameters. And just like that, we automatically not just identified and understood a particular issue, actually took action to resolve it. And so whenever we have these agents running, it's very important to understand what's going on. So we have the out-of-box activity log capabilities that are going to show not just what happened, it's going to see what was run, what was executed, what it did about it, the alert or the action it ended up taking, to really help me build confidence in the agent, but also refine it further so that it's working the best alongside my business. So that really showed some of the out-of-box capabilities that we have for Operations Agent. Really quickly, we have other capabilities across the entire system. You can build a RAG solution directly with Event House. I think I already mentioned we have the different anomaly detector capabilities. So this is in public preview right now. Very easily for you to go and connect to your existing Event House data. Data Agent is generally available in Fabric IQ as well. So you can use this to ask natural language questions. And then, of course, the Operations Agent generally available in Fabric IQ. So all of these different capabilities out of box to make it very easy for you to leverage your data in Fabric. You can also use Foundry to directly connect to that same ontology, the same information across all of your Fabric data estate to build those custom agents as well. So with that, I'll hand it back to Yitzhak.
Thank you, Tessa. And I'm super excited also to share with you how you can take it further, how you can use all those signals from the real world together with the ontology that represents the brain of the business, but also move it to the physical world. And that's where physical AI come into place. And I'm excited to share about our strategic partnership with NVIDIA, where we combine all those capabilities together to really help to drive and power physical AI. So if we look at the examples of airport operations, in this scenario, there are multiple entities, there are robotic arms, there are conveyor belts, baggage, cameras, etc. And the question, how we can collect all those signals, analyze them, understand and act on them, both by humans and agents, but also in the physical world. How we can use Fabric real-time intelligence to collect all those signals that are coming in real time, using Fabric IQ, using the ontologies to really represent the contextualize the virtual brain of these operations, using NVIDIA Omniverse to create 3D visualization of the real world, but also using simulations to really mimic and create the physical simulation of the world. And that's where it's all coming together, a unified spatial context where you're bringing together all the data into one place, ability to drive your operations not only on the digital world, but also on the physical world. And the solution here is in preview, where you can connect all this data, all those streams of data, and embed it in the real-time dashboard using OpenUSD scenes integrated with NVIDIA Omniverse libraries. And this creates a 3D visualization where you can see in real time how those system operates, but also the signals. And it's a bidirectional cross-highlight capabilities. And all of this is powered by a unified operational picture when you can drive operations for all your company. And that's where physical AI come into life. And we can see it in a real-time demo. So let's see it in action.
Airports manage thousands of moving assets in real time, but operations are still spread across fragmented systems. This makes it hard to see what's happening now or what risks are coming next. With 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀's OpenAir platform, live operational data flows into Microsoft Fabric real-time intelligence, creating digital twins built over an ontology connecting flights, gates, passengers, bags, and equipment. Physically accurate 3D visualizations built on NVIDIA Omniverse libraries provide the spatial context to act fast, while the operations agent in Fabric monitors, surfaces risks, and recommends actions. The result is a connected operational environment where humans and AI work side by side. The operations agent in Fabric alerts the operator that a delayed inbound flight has been reassigned to a new parking position. With a tight connection window, passengers must clear security quickly or miss their flights. The agent recommends to prep the position immediately. Using the 3D view, the operator identifies suitability of nearby available vehicles. With one click, work orders are approved and ground teams dispatched. A failing conveyor motor starts to slow baggage throughput. The operations agent in Fabric flags the risk and highlights the conveyor in 3D. After verifying the risk, the operator approves a reroute and a maintenance work order, keeping transfer bags and connections on schedule. Meanwhile, inside the terminal, the 3D view shows a heat map highlighting congestion at Security Checkpoint A. The operations agent recommends opening lanes and rerouting passengers. The operator stays in control, first verifying conditions and then approving the agent-recommended actions, dispatching staff to escort tight connection passengers through a faster route and onto their gates. With 𝗦𝗲𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 Microsoft Fabric IQ, and NVIDIA Omniverse libraries, airports gain an integrated real-time view in spatial context with AI-driven operations helping teams detect risks earlier, proactively take action, reduce disruptions, and improve passenger experience.
And as you saw, this is the future of data, the future of AI, how US developers can use all those data, all those signals, and really create a representation of the physical world. The team is working very hard on new capabilities based on your inputs from our customers, developers, etc. And you can see here quickly the roadmap that are upcoming, the new capabilities that are just announced today at Build. We are super excited about those, specifically the GF operations agents, as Tessa was saying, and many more capabilities. But the team is continuing innovating, and there are more features coming literally every week and every month. So please use your ability to provide the feedback for the team so we can build a better product. The same applies for Ontologies, Fabric IQ. It's announced as preview at Ignite, but we're adding more new capabilities, and there are new capabilities coming. And again, all the demos that Tessa have shown can be using both by APIs, but also an MCP that you can use using skills also that you can create those ontologies. And that's really represent what's Fabric IQ all about. Ability to bring all this data together, structured, unstructured, semi-structured, the ability to have the analytical understanding behind all this data, and the ability to drive operations, ability to connect all those streaming data together with the batch data into one place and creating this context for a unified AI. And that's what powers both people and agents to work and reason and help to drive the business. So if you want to get started, there is a real-time in a day workshop that you can use. There is skills that you can use and learn. And again, please use those, scan the QR codes, and really start playing. There's Ontology Playground when you can create your ontologies within Fabric IQ today. There are a ton of material there to get started. There are hands-on documentation, there are skills, there's a learning capabilities, and there's a lot of capabilities that we're shipping literally every week, every month. So please follow us and provide your feedback to learn more about Fabric and real-time intelligence and Fabric IQ specifically. If you want to get started, we also have feature partners that can help you accelerate it. So here is the link to find the partners that can help you get onboarded quickly. There are more sessions in Build that I highly recommend you to see. The session from Renats about a unified Fabric overview, and a deep dive session from Tessa about real-time intelligence. And thank you for joining us.